sometime. And I represent a lot of voters in Montgomery County, and I'm against it.
Any remarks he would like to? Would you care to say anything, Steve?
I'm convinced beyond a shadow of doubt that the people at the local level should be dealing with the problems that come up every day. And really, I found out that those of us who are in the legislature deal with local legislation a good bit more than we do anything else. I realize what the pros and cons are about home rule, but I feel like if we don't start home rule, we are just saying to the people in the communities and towns and counties that you don't have enough sense to run your own government.
You walked the streets of Montgomery just like this senator here did. You met the people, you told them the issues, and they told you their ideas. And I think you can make decisions by doing this again and going out and surveying the people. And somebody's got to have that power. The Alabama legislature now has it. I'm a part of that legislature, and I like to keep it.
Mr. Clement.
No, I'm sorry, no.
Mr. Edwards.
You lost. No, man.
17 ayes and 10 noes. Motion to table prevails.
Roll call vote that we have had today is going to help some of us who support this type of legislation to make it be known how the various members of this Senate feel about this legislation. And so I'm very pleased with the move to carry over that we have just considered, and I invite the opponents of the bill to continue their discussion. And
he's on y'all's side. Let him have his few little minutes.
Being ripped apart.
State your point.
I just wanted to say that to Senator Baker and the other of those on the other side that we are ready to compromise at any time.
I appreciate everybody trying to compromise. So, but I would say that there are a few who are more willing to compromise than others. And I think there is a very small, dedicated few who are bent on killing any kind of bill. Now, that's unfortunate, and I think that is very small. But I think everyone has sincerely tried to compromise, with very few exceptions.
Mobile, the late congressman from Mobile.
So far, according to the operators of the city's massage parlors, the police crackdown has been quite effective. But one operator says that she doesn't understand why the city will sell the masseuses a license and then proceed to try to put them out of business. This is Norman Lumpkin, WSFA.
Bill, the Rebels are riding high in the Southern League's Western Division with a 12-5 record. They're 4 games out in front of the Chattanooga Lookouts. That's the team they're playing tonight at 7:30. It's the team, as you mentioned, that the Rebels beat last night by a score of 3-2 in a very good game. One of the main reasons, as you mentioned, Billy Michaels. He's the right fielder for the Rebels. He's leading the team in RBIs with 14. He's got 7 stolen bases, 1 home run, and he's hitting an unbelievable .406. You think he can be hitting that way at the end of the season, Billy?
I don't think so, but I'd like to.
Did you expect to be hitting that well right now?
Well, you don't, this early in the season, it's, you know, things have been falling in that shouldn't have, and then other ones have been caught. It'll average out. I'd like to keep it up.
Last night, Billy, you were involved in a great baseball game, but got kind of hectic there in the 8th inning, I guess it was. You were thrown out of the game. Can you explain the circumstances behind that?
I felt it was a bad pitch. Umpire called strike 2 on me on a bad pitch. I was to protect Whitaker, who was on first. The still was on, he was stilling, and anything close I was to swing at, so it wasn't even close enough that I could get a swing in. So in disgust, I threw my bat down, and
You didn't think that was too nice, huh?
no.
Well, the game came out all right, though, because Bianco hit the homer there and got the pitcher in a jam there with the bases loaded and no outs in the ninth inning. It looked like Chattanooga was going to win the game, but you came back and won it mainly behind the fielding of Lou Whitaker, throwing the guy out at first at home.
Right, Lou's a good second baseman, nice and steady. He'll hit the ball for you, steal the bases. We've got an all-around pretty steady club. We've got depth. Can go to our bench. Right now, our pitching, we've got a good staff, but they could help us a little more right now, I think.
Well, Billy's going to take the night off tonight after a pretty good game last night. And who's going to take your place? Brookins?
Brookins, yeah.
Brookins out in right field. But the game's still on for 7:30 tonight at Patterson Field. The Montgomery Rebels in the second game of their 4-game series with the Chattanooga Lookouts. Back to you, Phil.
TV News update. The Alabama Hospital Association is upset over President Carter's idea to set a ceiling on future hospital costs to patients. Association President Perry Cox said that his group resents being singled out from other industries in the President's Cost Containment Act. Lieutenant Governor Jerry Beasley said that Governor Wallace never had any intention of his utility package passing the state legislature, and Lieutenant Governor challenged Wallace to call the legislature back to an immediate special session to deal with the utility bills. Beasley accused Wallace of stacking a Senate committee so his utility bills would die before they reached the Senate. A house being torn down in West Montgomery fell on top of workmen today, trapping them momentarily under the debris, but the workers were lucky. All escaped major injury. That's the WSFA TV News update at this hour. Details of these and other stories coming up on the NBC Nightly News at 5:30 and an hour from now on Channel 12's 6 o'clock report.
This whole issue of legislative immunity is one which I think has largely been created and really inflamed by the press. The ordinary Alabama citizen has the same kind of immunity in terms of going to the polls and voting. He has the immunity not to be arrested while he's engaged in the process of voting. A legislator, by the same token, when he's coming to and going from Montgomery, engaged in the process of voting on vital issues affecting the people of the state of Alabama, is immune from arrest. Now, Mr. Baxley says that the immunity only applies in civil cases. Well, even a person who's not been to law school knows that in civil cases, arrests are not made.
Outline for us the Democratic Conference activity this weekend and what you hope to accomplish by this session.
Yes, we have several workshops in areas of Social Security, workshops in the area of our farmers' home loan, small business loan, and other areas that will give our people information on what they can do when they get back home and things that the government can help them do and things they can do for themselves. The workshops are going very well, and they're being well attended. Another thing we want to do is continue to solidify our efforts so that next year we will be in a good position to try to determine the outcome of some of the state elections. We will also spend some time this year trying to get a special committee to select a black to run for statewide office next year. In fact, we are determined to run a black statewide office, maybe more than one black. We're going to find a good person. We're going to have a special committee to do it so that we can let our people know now why they're here so we can go back home and get ready. And when the end comes, we can have victory. In fact, we're going to be concerned about electing good black and white candidates. But above all, we're concerned about informing our people as to what's best for them in terms of the various federal regulations, federal programs, and what they should be getting from their county and city governments. Because we have found that many city officials are not doing what they're supposed to do for the people, and the people need to know about it. And this is kind of an education session for our people.
Can you tell us what statewide office your group may be considering backing a black candidate for?
Not at this point. We will have a 15-person committee to find the person and to recommend the office where this person should run for. I would prefer running someone for at least 2 positions, but I don't know whether the committee is going to recommend this or not. If they do, we're going for the 2, but what 2, I don't know.
Will this be the first time your organization has done this?
This will be the first time our organization will have done this, and of course we're going to have a candidate that can appeal to all segments of the population, and the burden of proof is going to be on everybody to show why this candidate was not elected if the person is not elected, because we're going to have a good candidate, one that all segments can support.
When will you make the announcement of the office and the potential candidates?
Just as soon as we can get the committee to work, and the committee will be announced over the weekend and not later than Monday. And of course, as soon as the committee finishes its work, then of course we'll be able to make the announcement, hopefully in another 90 days.
Thank
you. Mr. Baker, call 135. Mr. John Baker, 135.
Cap on capital expenditures. He has indicated in the bill that this amount would be $2.5 billion. During last year, the figures quoted to us was something like $4 to $5 billion that were capital expenditures. That's buying new equipment, adding new services, and construction of new facilities. Now, it doesn't take us long to see if we're going to take and put a cap on that and reduce that, what, 50% or 40%? That's going to deprive the people in our community from these services that we would render. You know, a lot of the progress that's being made and the sophisticated types of surgery, procedures, tests, and this type of thing would actually deprive the patients in our community. And this is one of the great concerns that we have, and why they would arbitrarily take health care and to put a cap, so to speak, cap on our services, and yet the services that we buy, the equipment that we buy, supplies that we buy, are no different than what you buy in your home or in your stores. Either you or your wife have come back and talk about what the food cost is. Well, we buy food. They talk about what the utility cost is, and we buy utilities just like anybody else. And the concern of ours is the fact that we were singled out in this endeavor to contain the cost as a single entity rather than having everyone that has anything to do with supplies and expenses and utilities to be affected the same manner.
What this money will be...
Mr. McMillan! Mr. Miller!
I want to say this. Evidently, there may be 2 or 3 other amendments. Let me say this. The substitute, if adopted and passed, and if we pass the private school bills, the Walker College, Tuskegee, Lyman Ward, Marion, and Talladega, we'll have a $15 million balance at the end of the next fiscal year. Now, if you want to go in proration, let's just adopt these amendments. I'm not going to move to table any amendments. I'm going to just suggest that we vote them up or down, and if you have a good amendment, get your votes. If you don't, why, you'll lose, so I'm not going to comment.
Mr. Vaca, Mr. Waldrop.
Mr. President, I have an amendment.
Secretary, read the amendment.
Mr. President, I have an amendment.
Secretary, read the amendment.
Mr. President, I have 3 short amendments.
Mr. President, I have an amendment.
750.
Mr. President, I have an amendment.
Doesn't have an amendment.
Mr. President, I have an amendment.
You will be asking the council to pass include.
We have in our existing ordinances, Norman, a section dealing with massage parlors in the city of Montgomery. And this ordinance that we have exempts legitimate operations such as hospitals, nursing homes, chiropractors, and so forth who legitimately use massage in the furtherance of their treatment. We are introducing tonight an ordinance amendment which is copied from Huntsville, Alabama. And it's my understanding it has been upheld in the courts. And it will require that anyone who gives any type of massage service in one of these places, now it must be done. If a man wants a massage, a man will do the massaging. If a woman wants a massage, a woman will do the massaging. And this is the amendment to our ordinance that I am introducing tonight in hopes that we can see to it that Montgomery will not be inundated with massage shops which are in truth mere sex shops.
Mayor Fulmer, is this ordinance designed to circumvent the coming legal action in the court here in Montgomery?
Well, we are certainly prepared to defend our actions in the hearing, which is scheduled for 4 o'clock Thursday afternoon. But what we have been searching for is an ordinance that will stand the test of the courts so as to permit the legitimate operator to continue to operate, but at the same time curtail these sex shops which masquerade as massage parlors. And this ordinance will, in my opinion, do just that.
City officials are hoping that the new ordinance, if it is passed by the City Council tonight, will clear up several things. Any possible legal action brought by last week's crackdown on the parlors, and they hope it will drive operators who operate these parlors and sell sex instead of massages out of town. This is Norman Lumpkin, WSFA TV News reporting.
Reports to you as we go along. Mr. President, one other item here, which I'm sure we all read that, if you will, Mr. Clerk. I think that we've got some people who have moved in here thinking we've got an easy ordinance, and I think that this is dealing with May the 1st, and this is, I just picked one of these out a week and we'll bring them to you for your perusal law. I think that we've got some people who have moved in here thinking we've got an easy ordinance, and I think they...
Council of the City of Montgomery, and Ralph and Honorable Godwin Jr. hereby approved for this position by saying...
We've gotten a report back, a verbal report on the testing of the police officer candidates that we give larceny and grand larceny. Now, this doesn't deal with serious something. This just deals with the larceny and background, some of them with masters and some with degrees. There are 9 blacks out of the first 25. Mr. President, one other item here, which I'm sure we all...
Hereby amended to read as follows by adding thereto the following section to be enumerated as Section 8B.
Hearing no corrections to the minute, I move they be approved to circulate.
Second. Moved and seconded that the minutes of last week be
predicament that we find ourselves in. I do not want to contribute toward killing any House bills. I made no contribution toward killing Senate bills.
Vote to, if you do not vote to carry this over, then you're voting to kill the session. In my opinion, we're not voting to kill the session, and the thing that continues to baffle me is that I have seen the toughest minds in this body get their way because they've been willing to hold out the longest. This body has killed sessions before. The point is that I represent agricultural constituents. We feel acres of land in this state are owned by the people, and you cannot tell me that there is any equity. You cannot tell me that there is any justice when you tell my constituents they have always done, and you're not going to say one word, and I guarantee you the rural people in this state are not going to forget it. Thank you.
I think the folks in my district know how I stand on the lid bill, and the Farm Bureau ought to know. And if they don't understand it, I'll try to explain it to them next time when we come down here. And I think it's asinine to stand up here and say that you're going to be looked down on, and we're going to be counting your vote, and we're going to spread the word how you've stood on the lid bill by this vote. By carrying these bills over, you're saying that you want to pass some bills on the calendar, and you don't want to keep beating a dead horse. And this bill has been dead for 2 weeks.
I'm going to vote to carry this bill over, only because the people who advocate the so-called lid law, which is not really what we are on now, but the substitutes, would not accept 2 good substitutes that could have been passed, in my opinion, by this body.
That you've got the opportunity now to offer your substitute, and I guess what you're saying is that I've got to have an agreement to pass my substitute before I let it come up. But what I'm saying to you is, let's don't carry the bill over. Everybody offer whatever the amendments they want to, and let the Senate do what it wants to about the lid bill with whatever lobbyist or special interest group locked on the outside.
Property and all the revenue on industrial boards to build their plants for them to take the money out of the state of Alabama and take it back out of people on it. They're rich people from Jefferson County. And I noticed in the big daily newspaper,
It is again time for budgetary matters to pass through the state's legislative chambers. And once again, the Attorney General's office is not faring too well. At the moment, there is no budget for the office's upcoming fiscal year. And Attorney General Baxley says that could cause a grave problem if something isn't done soon.
Well, last year, the Senate cut our budget considerably. In fact, they've done it the last 2 years. And up until right now, the governor has bailed us out with revenue sharing money, but he was unable to do so this time because he doesn't have any left.
Is there anything you could have done to prevent such thing from happening?
Well, no, I tried every way in the world to keep it from happening in the legislature last year. Of course, now I could have fired 1/3 of all my people back last October, and we'd have been able to operate year-round, but we couldn't have operated in any kind of way. I mean, it would have been impossible, just as impossible, to have operated with 1/3 of our people fired as it is going to be after June 1st with nobody here.
What do you think it is that puts your office in the position it is as far as the legislature goes?
Well, I think it's probably some political jealousy. The only person that, of course, the House has been fair, but if it had not been for Governor Wallace and his administration, we'd have had this same situation 2 years ago.
Well, what position does this put you in now as far as your office is concerned?
Well, if the Senate does not pass the supplemental appropriation, come June the 1st, we're just going to have to lock the doors, and it'll be dark, and we won't have a single person on the payroll. We won't have an Attorney General's office.
It will really come down to that.
Absolutely.
There are hopes here that lawmakers will go ahead and pass a budget so that anxieties about job security can die down in the Attorney General's office. But some officials say they have to keep looking at the bad side, just in case it becomes a reality. Bill Weaver, WSFA TV News.
Although I don't know, I still don't know what
I think this has caused some amount of notoriety this past week, and I'm happy to report that the court sustained the city's position this past week regarding any quote-unquote harassment of them, and that the city was sustained in its position of merely doing its duty. But tonight we hope to be able to correct the basic problem that we have by the passage of this amendment to our massage parlor ordinance, which will require that if anyone wants a massage in one of these places, that a male must be massaged by a male and a female must be massaged by a female.
Do you have any second thoughts about this ordinance? First. Secondly, do you have any doubt that it will pass the council?
Well, the mayor proposes and the council disposes. They will be the ones that will be called on to vote upon it. I think that it will pass. In answer to your first question, no, I have no second thoughts on it at all. And anyone who studies the police reports and investigations of these places would very quickly agree that they are very unsavory places and should be regulated more than they're regulated at the present time.
After this ordinance is passed, how many parlors do you think will remain in business here in Montgomery?
Prior to the passage of this ordinance in Huntsville, Alabama, there were 13 massage parlors. Shortly after the passage of this amendment to their ordinance, there were 0. We have checked with the police department in the city of Huntsville. The city of Huntsville reports that they now have no massage parlors, that no, there has not been an increase in prostitution on the streets of the city of Huntsville, and no, there have been no homosexual parlors opened up as a result of it. This report is available should anybody wish to see it.
Do you think Montgomery's massage parlor population will drop to 0 after passage of this ordinance?
I think that will be the outcome of it, yes. And they had 13 massage parlors prior to the adoption of this ordinance. The police report as of this week confirmed that they have 0 massage per town that we have had.
They got a license for a massage
Public hearing, unless the council opens.
proceed. Certainly, as I said earlier, this is probably very...
That is part of the ordinance, and the ordinance itself was upheld at the Alabama Supreme Court.
Any discussion on the motion?
Well, Norman, we really haven't had a whole lot of measles cases reported. We don't think we have a whole lot at the moment.
Do you have a policy in terms of requiring people to be inoculated against diseases like measles?
Yes, sir. I believe that the county health department that's set up, we fairly rigidly enforce it. And I believe that especially in the early elementary grades that this is a condition for school attendance.
At this point, is there a problem with measles in the Montgomery County school system?
Not that we are aware of.
There has not been any reported cases of measles or any confirmed cases of measles in Montgomery County. That is, it has been reported to the Montgomery County Health Department. Now, as far as your second question, the only law that we have, and that was passed in the legislature, I believe, 2 years ago, that requires all students entering the kindergarten and first grade levels must have 6 immunizations. There's been 6 of them that have been determined by the State Board of Health, and of course both types of measles are in this group of 6 immunizations that they must have in order to get into the kindergarten or first grade.
They will not be enrolled in kindergarten or first grade unless they have this shot record. Is that correct?
That is correct. They must have it complete, or we will give them a certificate if they get started, and they have 90 days to complete it then.
What about higher grades? Could someone possibly move into Montgomery and from another state that does not have a law like this and enroll without having an immunization record?
Yes, they could. The law applies only to the entrance level of kindergarten and first grade.
Health officials say they are concerned about 2 groups, infants up to 15 months old and junior and senior high school students who are not covered under the mandatory immunization law. If an outbreak of measles comes, it could occur in one of those 2 groups. This is Norman Lumpkin, WSFA TV News reporting.